Okay, so I understand that the demand for healthcare is inelastic, but you can still change healthcare prices by decreasing its scarcity, right? So its demand might not change, but you can do certain policies, right, that don't necessarily mean it's anarchism, that will reduce prices of like drastically. For example, we
Like
could
price caps.
or we could do things like the abolition of intellectual property rights, which will force these companies to compete with each other, reducing the scarcity and the price of the good.
Why
And we
would a
could also add,
pharmaceutical why would a pharmaceutical company ever get on board with the abolition of intellectual property if it meant they could spend billions doing drug trials and the nanosecond theirs gets FDA approved, every single other company that sells drugs just finds one pill, breaks it down in a lab, and then reproduces it identically?
okay, why do we care what the companies want though?
Because
Like, aren't we
they're the ones
socialists?
because in this instance with a commodified healthcare system, they're the ones producing the drugs. I do as long as they're the ones producing the drugs, they do need to have an incentive to produce the drugs.
Okay, they still have an incentive to produce the drugs because it's what makes them money, right? Like even if it's a workers cooperative, right? They're still going to have an incentive to produce the drug because that's the service they provide.
Yeah, but they wouldn't want to invest billions into R&D because there would be no return on it. The moment they came out with the drug, after spending billions on it, every other company would immediately replicate that drug identically, and there would be no
Good.
specific return. Okay, yeah,
That would
sure.
reduce
Okay,
prices.
no, but then they wouldn't do R&D because they never get a return on their development. They would all just wait for the other companies to invent these drugs and then copy them immediately after they're produced.
So you don't think that there would be an incentive for people to innovate under this system, but yet you argue for a system that doesn't even have like market forces, which also doesn't really provide an incentive for people to innovate.
Yes, it
Like for
does.
an example, so for well, actually,
Most
let me give
R&D
you.
is done by student researchers and stuff at like universities.
Yes, I work in RD or R&D. I'm a chemist. I work in R&D as a chemical lab technician. Most R&D is conducted by simple workers that are paid money, right? It doesn't really cost too much to just pay a worker to do R&D.
Wait, R&D costs a lot. The
Yes,
full,
depending on the industry.
yeah,
But like
for
a worker,
pharmaceuticals.
most workers like are the workers are the ones that come up with R&D, right? Like
Yes, but it
it's not like
costs
the
a lot.
capitalist. Okay, but like I don't see why that matters when they make a lot, right? Like because in this society where like the maximization of competition within a labor market brings the product of brings the what are we going to call this? The worker's wage up
But
it's
none of
the
these companies would want to
labor.
spend the billions for no return. There's no reason for any private company to invest money in R&D if there's a guarantee that it would immediately be copied by every other R&D
So
or
so
every
are
other
you
pharma company.
so are you arguing in favor of intellectual property rights then?
In the context of a privatized market, yes, but I want a decommodified pharmaceutical system, in which case it would be
So
irrelevant.
So it wouldn't necessarily be like private ownership, right? These would be worker cooperatives, right? We're not talking like it's going to be, and we
They're
would
still
have
motivated
like
by profit.
profit is absorbed by wages.
Yeah, but and they get more wages if they make a return. If they spend billions on R&D, that's billions coming out of a worker cooperative's budget. Any market-based entity needs a market incentive in order for them to invest in the development of a new product, which is why I want this to be done in a decommodified fashion by the government, because the government has different incentives for producing pharmaceutical goods. Historically, the government has spent a lot of money on R&D because it can. The government invests because it has adjacent military projects that it wants to, build up, or because there are just government researchers who get money and they can just use that to do R&D. But the government gets its money not from selling products, but from taxes, meaning that you don't have to worry about like restrictive IP access to the things produced through government research. They'll just do stuff on their own.
I would like to talk about a healthcare system that existed previously, like they're called friendship societies, right? And it was more based on a free market system that had more cooperative based, consumer cooperative based solutions for insurance, right? Why is it that now a worker, right, had to pay? Now they have to pay. Back then, a single day of wage for a worker. I could provide this study. A single day working of a worker's wage, just for a single day of working, was able to provide them for an entire year's worth of full coverage health care for friendship societies, because they basically formed like basically what's called a consumer cooperative. But now it's like, I think nobody would argue that any worker could ever possibly pay for their entire years of health insurance with just a single days of wage.
I don't think this is a relevant argument. You're talking about completely incomparable factors. Not only am I not familiar with the specific ways in which healthcare was accommodated by these programs, I don't know what they could or couldn't do. I don't know the limits. I don't know what the weights were. There's nothing for me to derive here. And it's also irrelevant to the point that was being made, which is about the incentive for innovation in the healthcare industry. And I was saying that IP laws are necessary in order for private investment to be a worthwhile endeavor, but public investment happens without IP restrictions. The government doesn't maintain intellectual property rights over the products of its research. Not usually, certainly not for a lot of the pharmaceutical stuff that they've done. So given that, it makes sense that it would be best left to the government as a decommodified force.
So, okay, so you're saying that it requires private investment in order to do R&D, right? Well, there's a difference between like how banking systems would work, which would not really require private investment to be necessary in a mutualist society where there is easy access to free credit through consumer cooperative banking.
What? No. Why would a private company spend billions on R&D if they will get no return on that? It would be nothing but a loss to them. It would be a rationally incorrect decision to make.
I don't see how they wouldn't get a return on creating a product to sell to the market,
because
it would get them wages. It wouldn't be like a loss, right? Because all wages are absorbed by profit. If they spend on R&D and come up with a new profit, or come up with a new product, not profit, come up with a new product and they sell it on the market, even if it's replicated by their competitors, it still is going to generate them wages.
Because
and I'm arguing, right, that labor's true value is its natural wage, right?
Look away from the theory book for a second. We implemented IP laws for a reason. We're not talking theory. This is a fact. Intellectual property laws exist for a reason. Private companies are not willing to take a risk with no guarantee of return, even if they're worker-owned. That's just a fact of private ownership. The best thing for them to do would simply be to wait for another company to do the R&D and then to yoink that formula after they get it passed through the FDA. That would keep them from spending billions that would otherwise have gone to wages. It's rationally better.
There wouldn't be an FDA. There would be consumer audits, right?
That was not relevant to the point that I was making, though. The point that I'm making is why there'd be no reason for them to engage in the R&D.
Okay, the reason that they would engage in R&D is because it would add, if you come up with a new product, even if it was yoinked, right, they're still going to make wages from that work, right? They're still going to make wages from doing the work of research and development.
If
there's still going to be a return. There's still going to be a return.
If you think that's how where do you think the money comes from in the wages they pay? If they're spending money on R&D, that means they're directing resources away from the production scheme for the pharmaceuticals they sell towards research, meaning that money is being taken from the pool of money that they could otherwise put towards wages. Otherwise, you could have worker cooperatives that literally are just like in a building where 5 people work on doing nothing and they all get paid because the wages come from the company anyway. So if they lose money, the money's just lost in the wages given to the 5 workers who are hitting their hands with hammers.
Okay, wait, say that again.
The money needs to come from somewhere else. If they're dedicating resources towards R&D, they're not getting money in from customers buying their products. That money isn't being spent in an effort to facilitate the supply line. It's being spent on R&D.
Okay, I don't see how spending money on R&D that's going to produce a product that you can sell on the market is problematic to the workers' cooperative.
Because they
can
lose
spend
the
a
money.
portion. They're not going to lose the money. They're going to be able to sell the product for a wage. It's going to be a new product that they can sell, even if other corporations are going to sell the product.
Then why not just wait for one of them to do the billions on R&D and steal the product after they make it?
So I don't think it's going to be like one firm is going to be spending billions on R&D, because it's going to be more decentralized than giant, massive corporations.
No.
Because there's going to be smaller firm size due to increased competition.
No. There's a reason we have IP laws. Why are you so opposed to just decommodifying this?
If I wanted to purchase healthcare in Ohio, I live in Pennsylvania. If I wanted to purchase healthcare from a provider in Ohio that sells it for cheaper, just because I want a cheaper healthcare, right? As a consumer, I can't do that. There's laws that prevent me from doing that. That reduces competition and allows these companies to grow bigger and undercut smaller companies.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say that we live in your society and I want to start a new cooperative business. I work together with a couple of my friends and I start together and I make a tampon manufacturing business. It's a health service. People need that. You know, you can find that at a department store or anywhere else, really. Okay? And we start producing those. Things are highly decentralized and localized, and there are no IP laws. Everyone knows how we produce them. Anyone can produce them, but we're quick, clever, and we have a good bit of initial startup funding. And what we do is we grow, and eventually we start to make preferential deals with local retailers. We say to them, hey, we will sell our bulk product to you at a lower cost on the condition that you, A, charge less for it, and B, only stock our tampons. Don't stock other companies' tampons production, only ours. This is a transactional, non-state involved, interaction. And because we're offering a better bulk price on the tampons we're selling them, a lot of these retailers go along with it, and we make a lot of money. Eventually, we're the only company in the city that's actually able to sell our tampons there because we've made deals with all the retailers to only stock our product, city to city, province to province, former nation to former nation. Through no state intervention and no intellectual property laws, we were able to become a monopoly. We were able to take advantage of the scale of economy to build bigger and better factories. Other companies may produce the same product, but they don't have the ability to produce it as cheaply as we can, which means that we're already at an advantage when it comes to production, not even in terms of investment. Eventually, only we produce the tampons anywhere, and then we raise the price. What the fuck are they going to do?
And then somebody else enters the market and fills the monopolized part there. You monopolize it, right?
Yeah, that's what's happened historically.
You start charging a larger price. Somebody else, because there's no barriers of entry, they go to the mutual bank that they're a member of.
They can't charge a lower price.
They can, because they go to the mutual bank. They get a free credit loan. They start up their own, and then they open their own tampon business.
These new business owners sell a tampon at loss. Do you know how expensive it is to produce a tampon?
It's not going to be at a loss.
I could produce a tampon for 1/100th of a cent. You would be paying 100 times that for every point of production, and I have pre-existing deals with all of the retailers in the world. You really think some little startup? Who are you going to sell to? You really think that these local retailers that make a lot of money stocking our tampons with our preferential deals are going to break a negotiation they made with us just so some little pithy inferior product?
Consumers are not going to buy your product if its price is ridiculously inflated compared to a competitor that can provide a just as good as a quality of a tampon for a much lower price.
You
They're
can't
not going
produce
to
a
buy
lower
it.
price
They're not
tampon.
going to buy it.
You can't produce.
What is
Wait,
stopping me?
please,
Hold on,
please.
hold on,
Wait,
hold
no,
on.
no, no, wait. Can I
Wait a
ask you
minute.
an honest question? Wait, can I ask you an honest
What
question?
is?
Wait,
No,
please, please.
You're interrupting, and I would like to finish my sentence.
You were lying to me when you said you do R&D. How old are you?
No, I'm not. I'm 24. I have a child.
I am begging you to do literally any research on the accumulation of capital and natural monopolization. Any research at all. Once you establish a sufficient lead in the productive economy, once you are able to benefit sufficiently from the economy of scale, you could produce tampons cheaper than any startup ever could, while still inflating the price massively from what you could afford to be charging for it. You could be charging like $1 for a tampon box when you could be charging 10 cents, and you would have to charge $3 just because you don't have massive hyper-efficient factories. The math is impossible and impregnable. The solution? A central government to break up the monopoly. We need Taft-Hartley. We need Roosevelt. They need to come on over. They need to hang some people, shoot some people, break up the free market, maybe nationalize a few industries. It's the only way forward.
So the solution to monopoly is to create a one big monopoly. So this is the thing is right. Is
Wait,
that you're
the government
talking
doesn't
about
have monopoly.
It's a monopoly. If you want to nationalize an industry, it's a singular monopoly. So I want to actually address what you said earlier about. No, let me address what
monopolies
you
are a
just
market
said.
factor. If it's decommodified, it would take an entirely different.
It doesn't have to be a market to be a monopoly.
I think generally when people talk about monopolies, they mean like
it's irrelevant. I would like to talk about how you said that if you get a drastic lead, right? Yes, sure, that's true if you have a nationalized bank system where there's lots of barriers of entry to, take out loans and stuff.
I didn't mention any nationalized bank system. Nothing that I said relied on any type of banking.
But it's a factor in why. Like national banks, like the fact that it's hard to start up a company and to get that you were talking about how I can't produce the product as efficiently because I don't have efficient factories, right? The reason I can't get those efficient factories is because I can't secure a loan because national banking is discriminatory and you have to have a bunch of previously already obtained capital.
No bank is going to loan you the capital to build a factory because you're doing a startup.
There will be mutual cooperative banking in a mutualist society that is able to provide people free and easy credit.
Just
and it
$30
wouldn't
million
even technically
for a
be a
factory?
loan. Likely, yeah.
Really?
If you're a member of the cooperative,
with respect, this is like I'm arguing the logic of like Alice in Fairyland or whatever, or there's not like this is ridiculous, right? This is like I don't even like discussing like post-state political systems, and this is more delusional than most of the shit.
So Vaush, can I ask you a question about your system?
Since my system can exist, I would like it if we can move to that. Yes.
Like I said, like the maximization of competition is going to prevent monopolization.
That's a very Marxist position of you. No, it won't.
I'm not a Marxist.
I'm aware of that. You realize that the history of capital has been the history of the accumulation of capital.
In the entire history of capital, statism has existed.
Yes, I know, and this is the delusional fantasy of every Ancap. That even though you can't account for or predict any institution or any system within our own, even though you've never contributed anything valuable to any predictive economic discourse, even though Marx, who is more philosopher than economist, has been more predictive in his ability to understand how these systems play out, you still delusionally maintain that if we only got rid of the thing that's been around for as long as we have the written word, then all of the things that have never worked once would suddenly magically work and we'd have utopia. You're worse than the worst socialists that I've talked to when it comes to like post-society idealization. Like, this is the worst iteration of that. Everything you're talking about right now is the opposite of all demonstrated empirical reality, but once you get rid of the thing that has always been around in some form or another, then it'll work. Like, how is anyone supposed to take this seriously? This is the reason why fascist economists get listened to by governments, but ANCAPs don't. ANCAPs usually inform like private investors, but when governments decide how to like allocate resources, they don't listen to ANCAPs because the most ANCAPs have ever contributed are the senses of entitlement and self-worth that endows onto like corporate owners their perceived right to exploit workers. Like that's it. You're a cultural commodity. Like this isn't like
Hello?
hello?
Yeah, it was cutting out for a minute.
Oh, I'm sure it was. If only we didn't have the myriad government institutions that laid the electric cables and maintained standards for network transmissions, then we would have the perfect ANCAP call.